Hashtag GizzyCredit. Hashtag GizzyCredit. Hashtag GizzyCredit. Gizzy.
It's a Dodge Ram that you needed.
Yeah, I needed that. But I got that on account of you. Without you, I wouldn't even get that. You did that for me. Without you, I did that.
Anything you want, then you can get it. Don't get scammed, cause then you'll regret it. You no longer gotta look pathetic. Look pathetic.
Oh, how you doing?
Good morning.
GizzyCredit here with divorce attorney Bob Davis.
Hi.
Bob, very happy that I'm here because a lot of my customers who contact me for credit repair, they're divorced. And
It happens.
you know, I wanted to create this video for you guys so that you could see, because Bob's been doing divorces since 1983, and
True.
he's seen it all, from people making millions of dollars to people making $50,000 a year, and what happens to their credit. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you guys, so you could see from an expert what can happen in a divorce with your credit. But aside from that, what's the main thing that people worry about when they contact you? And you know, let's look at the camera.
When they come to me, people are usually ready to get a divorce. They don't want to talk about whether they can reconcile. By the time they come to see a divorce attorney, they want a divorce. They know what they need.
Yeah.
And there's two things that they worry about. And the first thing, of course, is I'm a parent of 4 kids, too. They're all grown. They worry about their kids. How are their kids going to be raised? Where are they going to be raised? And then the second thing is, how are they going to be able to live? How are they going to be able to pay their bills? And what are they going to do to be able to keep those kids in a safe, stable location and get their bills paid every month? So those are the two most important things. How are my kids going to get raised, and how am I going to pay my bills?
Wow. So, what's the second thing that they worry about? Like, of course, the number one cause of divorce is finances.
Finances, there's a lot of people who get divorced because there's not enough money, and they end up fighting about money. That's terribly tragic, because that really is not something that gets better when you get divorced. Almost always when you get divorced, you've now got 2 apartments to pay the rent on, or 2
Correct.
houses to pay the mortgage on. For most people, you're going to get divorced because you need to, so you do. But then you have to watch very carefully what's going to happen with your finances. You have to plan it. You don't want to go through the difficult and painful process of bringing a marriage to a close when that marriage is dead, and end up a year later or 2 years later struggling very, very hard just to keep your bills paid. You have to plan it carefully ahead, and for a lot of people, your credit's going to take a hit. You have to be very careful how you do it. That's one of the things I have to really work with my clients.
So this is how they're going to survive during this process. Is there any time where, you know, it works out, or
Yeah, there are.
no negative accounts, no collections, no things are left off?
If you do it right, and everybody knows what the debts are that you've got, and everybody knows what the assets are you've got. Typically, people may own a house. There may be some value in that house. The house might be worth more than the mortgage. You have to deal with what you're going to do with that house. You're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with all the credit card debt that you owe.
Correct.
If anybody's been sick, you're going to have to deal with any hospital bills or medical bills to doctors that haven't been already paid. There's a lot of things that happen where you've got to know ahead of time and carefully plan with your ex-spouse how those bills are going to get paid. If you don't plan carefully, that's when you get the surprises. That's when I get the very unhappy phone calls a year and a half or 2 years later saying, I've got a problem, what do I do? That doesn't happen to me very often. I try to be very careful and very upfront with people. You have to know what you're getting into when you make an agreement with your ex-spouse as to what you're going to do with who's going to live in the house, or if the house is going to get sold, who's going to pay the credit card bills, how much of it, and how much you're going to give or receive, how much you're going to pay or receive for alimony, if there is going to be any, or child support. If you plan it carefully, you don't have collections accounts, you don't have frantic scrambles to try to make sure the mortgage is paid every month. If you do it right, you should know what you're getting into. So that's what I try to do for my folks.
So, I mean, but at times, divorce could definitely be a financial burden to many of you. That's how, you know, a lot of my customers are divorced. You know, Gizzy, my, you know, I got divorced and she took everything. I got divorced and he took everything. A lot of times, you know, it feels like, you know, they're bankrupt. They're like, oh, I just let him take anything. I'm starting over again.
Some people do act from emotion. Some people say, look, I just want it to be over. And yeah, you can end up, and there's a couple of different ways that I see happening a lot of the time. When you get divorced, if you've got kids, a lot of the time the mom is going to say, her first question is going to be, how do I make sure that I continue to raise my children and be their mother? That's the basic question that most of the women have. And the second question that a lot of the women have, not all, but a lot, is going to be, how can I stay in the house so that my kids can keep living in the house that they've lived in for a while? And how do I pay for it? But the second part of how do I pay for it, a lot of people don't think about that. And those are the people who are going to end up with a mortgage that they can't handle because it's too much money. If the cost for a woman to stay in the house is calculated carefully, if you add in the mortgage payment plus the heating, the electric, the cable bill, the cost to do repairs on the house, because everybody's house needs to be fixed, you know, occasionally. You don't really know when. You got to pay for cutting the grass, you got to pay for shoveling the snow, whatever it is. If you add all those up and you know ahead of time and you've planned it, then you can keep the house and be comfortable. But if you don't, if you get out there and you get divorced and you're in that house and then you realize, maybe my lawyer was right, maybe I really shouldn't have taken this on, then you've got a problem. Then you're going to see people unable to pay the credit card bills and the ordinary expenses and also keep the house paid up. That's when you're going to have really big problems. That is the most common scenario that I see where people get into really big trouble that they don't expect.
I get a lot of people, not only people who make 50, 100,000, but also people who are affluent, making $450,000, $500,000 a year. But they kind of experience the same type of, you know, I'm doing financially bad, you know, like it's going to hurt them either way, whether you make 50 a year or, well, not really, because if you make more money, it's...
If you make more money, you're not going to have the same problems. You're not going to be struggling to pay the mortgage the way some people are going to end up. But your lifestyle will change for some period of time. For some period of time, you're going to have to be, very likely, making payments to your ex-spouse. And that means that what you're doing, what you're used to, is probably going to go down for a little while. You have to know that this is coming. You have to talk about it with your lawyer. You have to plan for it. And you can't let it cause you to miss payments on credit cards or otherwise really get in trouble. Even if you're making $400,000 a year, if you miss payments on credit cards, it's going to ding your credit pretty hard. You have to be able to keep it going.
And this is if both of them are on the same credit card.
That's one of the biggest problems is if one of the people agrees to pay on some of the credit cards and the other one pays on the other credit cards, if you fail to make payments over here, your ex-spouse, that ex-spouse's credit is going to get dinged. It's going to show up as a failed to pay for the other party. And people will come back to me and say, what do I do now? She or he has failed to pay whatever, the American Express or the Citibank MasterCard, and now it's headed to collections and my credit rating has just dropped a huge amount. There's a bunch of things a lawyer can do, but it's expensive to go to court and fight about stuff. It's kind of expensive to even write letters to the other person's lawyer and say, hey, look, get them to fix it. You want to plan it ahead of time to avoid this if you possibly can. You want to keep control over what the finances are going to be after you get divorced.
And this is how divorce will work. I mean,
yes, we
don't want to, but in many cases when people contact you, either man or woman, making 50 or millions of dollars, because I know you represent both,
yes,
this is when it'll work for both.
You have to know what you're getting into. You have to plan it carefully, think it through, take your time. as I said, there's almost always never enough money for everybody to keep living the way they were living. You're going to have a financial decline because now you've got 2 houses to pay for instead of just 1 house.
Correct.
So you need to know what you're getting into, plan it out. When you get a divorce, it's not just the end of a marriage, which is horribly painful and sad, but it's also the end of a business partnership where you were working together financially to keep your house together, keep your kids happy, clothed, and fed. You have to figure out how to undo that business partnership as carefully as possible. And that's a lot of what I do as an attorney.
That's nice. Thank you so much for you guys listening in. Bob, how can they contact you? Where are you located at?
Well, that makes this attorney advertising, so please,
Oh.
I'm not here just to advertise. I'm here to
I'm
just
sorry.
talk to my friend Gizzy.
You know what?
But
I know
yeah,
that.
I'm
My
here in
bad.
Hackensack, so if anybody wants to contact me, they can find me, Robert Davies.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay.
I didn't know about that. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
Anyways,
been a pleasure.
No, I want to educate as many people as I can through my channel, and I get a lot of people who ask me questions. So if I could just be the source for people to be like, oh, Gizzy, I saw the video with Bob. Can you, give me his contact info? I want to speak to him. I could just, refer them over.
Come on over. I'll sit you down, talk you through, start figuring out how to get things back on track for you.
Thank you so much.
All
All right, Bob.
Take care. Thanks, Gizzy.
Thank you for watching, my people. GizzyCredit.
GizzyCredit. Anything you want.